Shohei does and what he is capable of is so unique. It should be rewarded. It should be celebrated.
He's never going to say, I'm not good. I need a day, or I'm not going to play today. So I think it's incumbent upon us to bring it to him and have the conversation.
Not a player on our team who doesn't love him as a teammate, no one who works harder. And a lot of those things we didn't know when we signed him.
チームの中枢を担う首脳陣が大谷翔平選手についてこれほどまでに言葉を尽くすのはなぜなのでしょうか。彼らは毎日最も近い距離で大谷選手を見てきた人たちです。ワールドシリーズ制覇を共に経験し、リハビリの過程に付き添い、そして二刀流という前例のない挑戦を組織としてどう支えるかを考え続けてきました。投げて、打って、走る。野球史上誰も成し得なかったことを当たり前のように両立させる男。あんな選手、見たことない。そう語るのは解説者やファンだけではありません。ドジャースという常勝球団を率いる首脳陣自身が口を揃えてそう認めているのです。今回の動画ではデーブ・ロバーツ監督、アンドリュー・フリードマン編成本部長、ブランドン・ゴームズ GM、マーク・プライヤー投手コーチ、そしてスタン・カステン球団社長、それぞれ異なる立場から大谷選手を見つめてきた5人が語った二刀流という生き方の舞台裏に迫ります。ぜひ最後までお楽しみください。まず最初にご紹介するのはアンドリュー・フリードマン編成本部長です。投資銀行出身という異色の経歴を持ちながら、レイズで弱小球団をリーグ優勝へ導き、2014年にドジャース入団。データ分析と緻密な戦略でチームを上昇軍団へと変えた、いわばドジャースの頭脳です。大谷選手の獲得交渉を何年も前から計画し、契約成立の最終局面まで深く関わってきた人物でもあります。そんなフリードマン編成本部長が向き合っているのは、二刀流という生き方の制度面です。投げる日と打つ日をどう組み合わせるか、休養をどこに挟むか、そして大谷選手が投打両方で出場し続けるためのロースター規定そのものにも深く関わってきました。つまり、大谷選手のルーティンが成立するための土台そのものを編成の立場から作り続けてきた人物なのです。投手として、打者として、毎日プレーして毎週投げ続ける。そんな前例は野球史上どこにもありません。だからこそフリードマン編成本部長は本人との対話を重ねながら答えのない問いに向き合い続けているのです。ここからはフリードマン編成本部長が語った2つの場面をご紹介します。
A lot of talk about him not being as good of a hitter the day that he pitches. How do you look at that conversation about looking at it, evaluating where he hits in the lineup, whether or not he does hit when he pitches?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all part of the rest and what makes the most sense. You know, it doesn't make sense for him to go wire to wire, pitcher, hitter, playing every day, pitching every week. That's hard. And so we do need to mix some rest in there, whether we do it on the day he starts and then therefore he can't hit late in the game, or if we do it around it, the day before or the day after, where you at least have the silver bullet off the bench in the ninth inning in a tight game to be able to pinch hit. You know, all of those are questions, and I think, you know, getting with him, and from our standpoint, if there's a clear answer, whatever it is, we're great with it. If there's not a clear answer, it's just going to require a lot of conversation and some trial and error to kind of feel it out.
I mean, like you said, it's not normal. He's one of one, and he's 31 years old now. How much do we all take that for granted? What he's doing is normal when it's not.
Yeah, I mean, I think most things that we encounter, we all have some kind of mental Rolodex we can go back to and like, oh yeah, in my experience, it's this. With Shohei, there is none of that. And we have no experience dealing with this. And so it definitely makes it trickier. That being said, I think as long as we're just staying connected consistently, I think we will feel our way through kind of what makes the most sense.
All right, so that brings me to the Ohtani rule. Great Counsel last week said he feels like the Ohtani rule is an unfair rule as far as rosters when it relates to pitchers. I went to ask him to clarify that yesterday, and he doubled down in a very tense way. Where is this all coming from? Do you feel like this is just a carryover from all the talk during the off season. Where do you think all this Ohtani rule talk is coming from now?
I don't know. It felt very random and strange to me that he felt the need to bring it up. And when Shohei was on the Angels and MLB was considering this, they reached out to a bunch of teams, us included. And I said, look, from a competitive standpoint as the Dodgers, I don't love it. But wearing my industry hat and what's best for Major League Baseball, it is to do everything we can for Shohei Ohtani to be in and stay in games.
Yeah.
And obviously with the 13 pitcher rule. So that's the part of him being able to stay in the game when he pitches and when he comes off the mound. You know, the old rule would have been then the hitter has to come out as well. But I was able to look at what is best for the industry, and Shohei playing and playing more often and staying in games is what is best for this game and best for the fans and everything else. So that was when he was with the Angels. And as far as the 13 pitcher rule, again, it is more that we have 13 pitchers. I had to clarify this with Jim Bowden, who said that we have 9 relievers. We don't have 9 relievers. We have 8 relievers just like everyone else. We have 5 starters like everyone else. It's just when Shohei is able and the rest makes sense, Shohei pitches also. It is not that we are carrying an extra reliever relative to others. So it's certainly an advantage, but it should be an advantage. What Shohei does and what he is capable of is so unique. It should be rewarded. It should be celebrated. And everyone knew the Shohei rules and had an equal opportunity to sign him 2 years ago. So not sure where the Cubs were in that process or what council's thoughts were on it then. But that seemed like more of the relevant time to voice it than now.
Yeah.
Friedman has constructed 5 National League pennant winning teams. What can you say about this one that you already haven't said?
This season obviously had a lot of ups and downs. That happens over the course of a 6-month season. But going into October, the number of questions about can this team do it? Is this team talented enough? It was our firm belief that this was the most talented team we were bringing into October. Doesn't guarantee anything, but watching these guys work, prepare, how focused they are on the task at hand is incredible.
Andrew, is that the single greatest performance in the playoffs you've ever seen by one man?
Absolutely. It's the greatest performance that's ever happened in a playoff game. Through 4 innings, I sent on our group message, that's the best 4 innings ever played. It's another one, like that's the best 7 innings ever played. It was absolutely incredible. I mean, to think this morning people were calling him a bum, and then he's on the podium getting the MVP trophy.
How much do you think that motivated him to silence the critics?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the bigger thing is it's hard to keep Shohei down for too long, no matter what. But he definitely heard it. He puts more pressure on himself than what anyone.
いかがでしたか？フリードマン編成本部長は大谷選手の二刀流ルーティンを感情論ではなく設計として捉えているようです。史上最高のパフォーマンスを称える一方で、休養をどこに挟むか、ルール上どう守られるべきかという極めて実務的な視点を持ち続けている。参照できる前例がないからこそ、毎日の対話の積み重ねが必要だと考えるその姿勢には、編成のトップとして大谷選手を長く第一線で活躍させ続けたいという強い意志が現れています。前例のない選手を前例のない方法で支え続けるという覚悟。それこそがフリードマン編成本部長だからこそ語れる重みなのです。2人目にご紹介するのはブランドン・ゴームズ GM です。ゴームズ GM が向き合っているのは二刀流ルーティンの中でも特にリハビリと負荷管理という側面です。トミー・ジョン手術からの復帰過程を間近で見守り、投球と打撃、それぞれの負担が体にどう影響するかを現場レベルで管理してきた人物です。自身が投手だった経験があるからこそ、大谷選手の体への負荷を語る言葉には独特の実感が込められています。続いては、そんなゴームズ GM が語った2つの場面をご紹介します。
Second Tommy John, what are the things you guys saw from him out of your lives that kind of give you the confidence about where he's just going to be performance-wise going from here?
Yeah, the stuff was really impressive. The movement and command combination and kind of the interplay of his pitches were felt like, hey, this is what he was doing in bullpens early on. Like you could just put that into the game and you would feel good about it. Obviously the intensity and everything's going to be different once you actually step between the lines, but it's been really encouraging overall, and the way he's bounced back and been able to continue to feel good doing both. I think, all points to him feeling good and going out there and being ready to perform.
Has going through this process with him kind of given you more appreciation for what he does as both a hitter and a pitcher?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think watching it from afar, and then last year really only just thinking about what would come. Seeing him, it really hit me in Arizona. He hits the home run, we win that night, and then the next day he's throwing like an up-down bullpen. I'm like, this is impossible, right? And it's electric stuff, and he's he's talking about the movement of his pitches. So it's really, it's exciting from a baseball perspective, and we're all fans as well, right? So just to watch our incredibly talented group on a nightly basis is really fun.
How concerned are you that he could hurt himself pitching and then you lose your best hitter?
I mean, I think that's true of anybody who's going out and stepping on the mound, but I think he's gone through this whole rehab process, and he feels good, and this is the next step in the progression. We signed him to be a two-way player. He's very much of the mindset that he wants to do that for a very long time. So we feel like we're ready to take that step and, go out and time to do it.
How has the balance been with Shohei's workload and figuring out, when to play off him a little bit, kind of how to fit him into the pitching plans? And has all this been different or more difficult than you guys thought it would be with him going back to a two-way role?
I mean, I think the one thing that we've said over and over again, there is no game plan because there is nothing to look back on. So it's really important. Each year is different. It's what he has done this year is different than the last time he's gone, wire to wire doing both. So I think it's really important to continue to have those conversations and the dialogue along the way, and understand that this is incredibly taxing. There's a reason why nobody else does it. When Doc and company feel like it's good for him to have a day and it'll help him reset, and making sure we're having those conversations along the way. It's important to keep him fresh, not only like the now, but obviously as we get deeper into the season. So it's incredible what he does. So we're gonna have to continue to navigate what that looks like week to week.
Last one, guys. 2 days you had off last week. Do you think that's something you guys are maybe not too expecting that, taking more of that into consideration, just how it has positively impacted more time?
Yeah, I think it's starting to understand how his body's responding, and he's never going to say I'm not good. I need a day, or I'm not going to play today. So I think it's incumbent upon us to bring it to him and have the conversation like, hey, this might be wise to take a day today because it'll pay dividends down the road. But like I said, it's a conversation, active conversations. But I know Shohei's going to want to play every day, and it's something that we need to be mindful of having a day could be more beneficial than not.
いかがでしたか？この2つの発言から伝わってくるのは、ゴームズ GM が大谷選手の二刀流ルーティンを毎年ゼロから組み立て直す生きたプロセスとして捉えているということです。一度確立した正解をなぞるのではなく、その年の状態に合わせて手探りで対話を重ねていく。さらに大谷選手自身が休養を口にしない選手だからこそ、周囲が責任を持って声をかけていく必要があるという視点には、自らもマウンドに立った経験を持つゴームズ GM だからこその選手への深い理解がにじんでいます。3人目にご紹介するのはマーク・プライヤー投手コーチです。プライヤー投手コーチが向き合っているのは、二刀流ルーティンの中でも投手としての技術的な調整とリハビリ過程における投球プランの設計です。打者との対戦が近づく中で、いつ強度を上げるか、どの球種から戻していくか、その判断を投手育成の専門家として大谷選手と共に作り上げてきました。プライヤー投手コーチがたびたび語るのは、大谷選手の場合、一般的な投手のように負荷を測ることができないという点です。 普通の投手であれば投球だけのデータから疲労の度合いがわかる。しかし大谷選手は打者としても全力でプレーするため、その負荷がどう投球に影響するかは関係者全員にとって今も学習が続いているプロセスだといいます。続いてはそんなプライヤー投手コーチが語った2つの場面をご紹介します。
Yeah, speaking of best players in the world, Shohei Ohtani, Mark, looks like he's getting closer to facing hitters. That's good news. Where is he in terms of that process, and what does a ramp up for him look like? Obviously, you can't send him out someplace because he's a DH. What does that look like for you, and how close is he?
He's getting closer. To put a time on it, I think is probably not prudent. It's been a very interesting rehab to, personally from an experience standpoint as an organization. I think it's been interesting to watch. Normally you're dealing with a guy that's all he does is pitch. And so you kind of know what their workloads are, when they're tired or expect to be tired or sore and when they shouldn't be. And so you can kind of go off of that, and the track record of previous guys who've had previous, similar injuries. Again, as everything with Show, he's unique and he's kind of an outlier situation. There's days where he goes 4 for 4 and he's running around on the base pass and he comes in the next day and he's feeling, tired and exhausted. So the throwing work volume needs to be cut short or tweaked to kind of manage that. And so it's been an ongoing learning process, I think, for everybody involved. But he is getting closer. His last couple of bullpens, he's really ramped up kind of the intensity and all his pitches. And so, I think we're getting close. I think we're getting close to where he can start facing some hitters, whether that's in the next couple of weeks or, as we turn into June, at the latter part of June. I don't think that's unreasonable, but honestly, things are always a little bit TBD just because of what he does on the offensive side of the ball and what the stress of that takes on his body at times.
Talking to Mark Pryor, Dodgers pitching coach since 2018. Dodgers at the Rockies tonight at 8:40 Eastern. Who does Ohtani remind you of pitching-wise?
Well, nobody, because nobody hits as well as he does as a pitcher. Though I did see a stat the other day that Fergie Jenkins had, I think, 13 homers as a Cub. So I guess he had some good power numbers. But
just his pitching style. Who does
it's a little bit. It's got a little bit of Nolan in him. Like where he's just gonna, and I know I'm dating myself, but I grew up watching Nolan and at the tail end of his career. And if he wants to just rear back and blow it by you, like he's going to do it. And I think we've seen that where obviously he has a very good and a very nasty sweeper, but if he wants it, he's going to get 100 and he's going to throw it right past you. And I think the at bat he had an at bat in Kansas City. I think it was like his second or third outing, and he'd been kind of in the mid 90s, and all of a sudden, guy comes up and he's like, here you go, here's 300-mile-an-hour pitches. And so, we have a lot of guys who throw extremely hard in this league. And so the velocity is not nothing, or isn't as exciting and unexpected, I guess is a better way to say it, that it used to be. But all of a sudden, this dude just out of nowhere is 100, 101, 102. And so that reminds me of watching Nolan when I was a kid, where it was just like, all right, I know he knows I'm throwing a fastball and here it is and see what you can do with it. And that's pretty cool. I mean, it's still, as a coach, it's one thing, but it's really, really as a fan to watch him do what he does is pretty awesome.
How would you pitch to Ohtani?
Well, as a pitching coach, we tried unsuccessfully at times. I mean, look, I was a 2-pitch pitcher, so it's trying to move my fastball around and throw my breaking ball and try to change the shape. And I try to go up and in and slow him down and away, and maybe just trying to use all 4 quadrants. I mean, when he's in a groove, there's no pitch that he can't cover. And I think that's what makes him special. You can throw it 100 miles an hour up and away, and he'll go backside, left field, homer, 20 rows deep. You can go down and in at 100. He'll pull a ball. He'll take off speed, with ass out, like he did the other day. completely like lost his entire body, and he still hits it 105 and it gets over the fence. So you hope that you catch, if you're an opposing pitcher, you hope that you catch him when he swings a little bit off. But right now it looks like he's starting to get his swing going again, and he's doing some pretty incredible things. And just the way he impacts the baseball, that's the crazy thing, is watching other big leaguers in the dugout marvel about how hard he hits the ball. And that's the thing that is just like jaw dropping. It's not that it's the power and the average. It's this guy's seems like he's averaging 110 off the bat every single time. And guys are like, big league guys are extremely like in awe watching how hard he hits the ball, even if it's an out. It's insane.
いかがでしたか？大谷選手を投手としても打者としても参照できる比較対象がいない存在として捉えているプライヤー投手コーチ。リハビリの進行も対戦相手としての怖さも全てが前例のないものとして語られている。自身も剛速球で名を馳せた元投手だからこそ、大谷選手の球の質や対戦相手としての凄みを語る言葉には技術者としての説得力がありますね。続いてご紹介するのはスタン・カステン球団社長です。カステン球団社長は球団経営の最高責任者という立場から大谷選手を見続けてきた人物です。フィールド外の視点からも投打両方をこなす大谷選手の存在がチケット販売やスポンサーシップ、そして世界中のファンの関心をどれだけ動かしているかを語っています。二刀流ルーティンはグラウンドの中だけの話ではなく、毎晩スタジアムに足を運ぶ観客一人一人の体験そのものを作り出している。そのことを経営という立場から実感している証言をご覧ください。
I want to talk a little bit about the best player in baseball, Shohei Ohtani. I mean, this guy has been absolutely incredible. We needed him in the postseason. We needed him in October. How integral of a part has he played, not only for the Dodgers, but in baseball in general?
You can identify people in other sports, basketball. You know who the stars are, and you want to see them, and they can have a tremendous impact on the team. Baseball's not that way. Baseball, it takes 26 people, awful lot of coaches, and an awful lot of minor leaguers to get through a season and to win up here. But Shohei is that rare person who moves the needle all by himself, not just on the field, but also off the field. Job one is always going to be, no matter what we spent, it was always for job one, which is helping us win on the field. He has been extraordinary. As I've been saying all week, we know what the body of a 50 home run hitter looks like. We know what the body of a 50 stolen base guy looks like. Those are not the same body, okay? They don't make humans like that does that. Oh, and by the way, he pitches also, okay? So he is unique, to put it mildly. What has been great is after the opening stuff in Korea, once we got through that and the wall came down, we realized what a great guy he is, how great he is in the locker room, how great he is around fans, how great he is with the media. We really didn't know all of that before, but he has been just as good as he can be. When he goes through a slump, like all players do, he works harder and gets out of it because that's who he is. If he has a couple of strikeouts early in a game, better beware because he's going to come back and get you late in the game. So everything stops when he comes to the plate. Very few players are like that. Aaron Judge may be one like that. But there are very few in baseball that do that command that kind of attention, that have that kind of presence. Shohei's one of them, one of the very few, and we're really proud to have him here.
Couple Shohei Ohtani questions for you. Is there a way that you can quantify the business impact that Shohei has had on the Dodgers? Like, is there a number?
There are many numbers, none of which I will share publicly, but yes, all I can say is it exceeded everything that we anticipated. And we anticipated a lot. We didn't know it would have this kind of impact. But more importantly, not just for the Dodgers, the impact it has had for Major League Baseball. The combination of the Dodgers' long-standing legacy and stature in the sport, combined with this newfound celebrity of the most popular global baseball player right now, has really propelled interest in our game
not just domestically, which it has, but increasingly around the world. And that's a great opportunity for baseball to capitalize on. We've had our eye on greater internationalization for a decade or two. This has really given us a heads up, a leg up on the next thing that we can do, not just in Japan, not just in Korea, where we also have had players from, but increasingly around the world where baseball is reaching out. You've seen all that baseball has been doing in Europe for the last few years.
Yeah.
That is continuing.
Another Ohtani question, because you kind of led right into it, which is that you said he exceeded your expectations. Yeah. You tried to sign Shohei, whatever that was, 7 years ago or so, at that point, and he said no, and he signed with the Angels. Then you got to him this time. What has surprised you the most about what your expectations were when you signed him to what actually has happened?
Well, there's two things, the two ways I'll answer. First, the business side is obviously it has increased our revenues, ticketing, sponsorships. You look around our stadium, we have a lot of new sponsors that weren't candidates for sponsorship a few years ago because we have a lot of foreign international sponsors. So that has been helpful. You can't walk around this stadium any time of day, any day of the year without running into a group. And we have 4 different languages for our groups. Every day of the year, we have business coming in. I've heard a number that 30% of the visitors to Los Angeles from Japan make a stop at Dodger Stadium. So those are some of the business things. One of the things we learned after the news broke in Korea about the swindle of his translator was we didn't know all the things about Shohei that we know now. Once that wall came down, before then, we were being told Shohei doesn't want this, Shohei doesn't want that. It really never was about Shohei. It was what the translator didn't want. We just didn't know that. Once he left, all of a sudden, and that wall came down, we realized what a funny guy he is, what a fun guy he is, what a cooperative guy he is, what a great teammate he is. There's not a player on our team who doesn't love him as a teammate, no one who works harder. And a lot of those things we didn't know when we signed him. We were going to sign him anyway, because just what he does on the field is amazing. But we've learned that subsequent, and it's just been fantastic.
この2つの発言が示しているのは、カステン球団社長が大谷選手の二刀流を競技としての価値だけでなく、ビジネスとしての価値、そして人としての魅力という多面的な視点から捉えているということです。投打両方をこなす唯一無二の存在感が、球場に足を運ぶファンの体験そのものを変え、野球というスポーツの未来をも動かしている。経営のベテランとして数多くのスター選手を見てきたカステン球団社長だからこそ、大谷選手の存在の大きさを語る言葉には特別な重みがあります。最後にご紹介するのはデーブ・ロバーツ監督です。大谷選手とは2024年の入団以来、グラウンドで誰よりも近い距離に立ち続けてきた指揮官です。二刀流という生き方は本人の意思だけでは成立しません。投手として登板させる日を選び、その翌日にどこまで打者として出場させるか、終盤の代打で使うのか、休養を優先するのか、その一つ一つの判断を毎日下しているのがロバーツ監督です。つまり大谷選手のルーティンの枠組みそのものを作っているのです。そんなロバーツ監督がよく語るのは、大谷選手の中に投手と打者という2人の選手が同時に存在しているという感覚です。投手としての準備と打者としての準備、気持ちの切り替え方も体の使い方も本来であれば別の人間が分担するようなことを一人でこなしている。それを毎試合間近で見続けているからこそ、ロバーツ監督の言葉には独特の説得力があります。さらにロバーツ監督が大切にしているのは特別扱いをしないという姿勢です。大谷選手の二刀流ルーティンもまた、監督にとっては選手それぞれが自分を試す挑戦の一つとして位置づけられているのです。ここからはそんなロバーツ監督が語った2つの場面をご紹介します。
Shohei the GOAT?
Shohei's a GOAT. Shohei's a GOAT. I'll tell you this. Barry Bonds is the best hitter I've ever seen. But as far as best player, he is by far the GOAT. There's just no one close.
You know, we start with Shohei. It's so hard to encapsulate what he does because there's nobody that's analogous to what the guy is doing. There's nobody. I mean, we go back to Babe Ruth, but I'm like, it's like Patrick Mahomes if he was a lockdown cornerback. Like, I don't. How do you kind of describe Shohei Ohtani to a casual observer?
I think the thing is that it's like two people in one. And I say that because, we win the World Series this year. He starts game 7. He goes almost 3 innings, doesn't have his best stuff, gives up a 3-run home run to Bichette and Bo Bichette. He then has to recalibrate, compartmentalize that he's not pitching anymore. Now focus on the hitting. He gets 2 hits in that game, gets on base a 3rd time, still a good teammate, because if you think about this, you start a game, you don't pitch well, you're out mentally.
Yeah.
But he has to have the capacity to still post as a hitter. And so essentially you're 2 people. So then as he gets ready for a major league game, you're getting ready from the savage killer part of it as a pitcher because you control the game because you're pitching. But on the other side, you're getting ready as a hitter to be ready to take on 5 at-bats. And then not only that is every single player in the ballpark that paid money that night is there to watch him. And you're not talking about just the U.S. You're talking about all of Japan.
Yeah.
I think being able to pitch and hit is something that challenges him personally, which makes him a better baseball, which certainly makes the Dodgers better that he's a 2-way player. So I think, some players have that individual, what makes them uncomfortable to challenge them, but all the while keeping that North Star on. The ultimate thing is to win a championship in 2026.
Another example maybe was from yesterday when Shohei Ohtani met with reporters. He brought up the idea of winning a Cy Young Award. We talked about in the podcast with Tim Kirchin yesterday. I mean, practically speaking, that's a hard thing for him to do because the number of starts he's going to make. But when you hear something like that, how do you take that Shohei's talking about winning a Cy Young Award?
But I think that's something that I can appreciate when a player talks about things like that and they're willing and know what it takes to put in the work. Anyone can talk about winning an MVP or winning a Cy Young, but that takes work, intentional every day. And he is a person that is very disciplined, very focused. And so I like that he tries to set, a standard, a bar, an expectation for himself to, achieve. And so he's checked essentially every box you can check as a baseball player, but that Cy Young is something that he hasn't got yet. So I love that he's chasing that. And I think Yamamoto obviously is going to be in that conversation this year as well.
これらの発言を通して見えてくるのは、ロバーツ監督が大谷選手の二刀流を単なる特別扱いとしてではなく、本人が自ら選び続けている挑戦として捉えているということです。最大級の評価をしながらも、同時にまだ何も達成していないという緊張感を求める。それは投打両方をこなすという重圧の中にいる大谷選手に対しても、決して例外を設けないという監督としての姿勢の表れでもあります。サイ・ヤング賞というまだ手にしていない称号を追い求める大谷選手の姿勢を監督自身が一番近くで喜んでいる。常勝チームを率いてきたロバーツ監督だからこそ、この言葉の重みは格別です。さて、いかがでしたか？今回はドジャース首脳陣が語る大谷翔平選手の二刀流ルーティンをご紹介しました。起用法を決める立場、制度を設計する立場、リハビリと負荷管理を見守る立場、投球面の調整を支える立場、球団を経営する立場、それぞれ役割は違っても共通していたのは前例がないという言葉でした。誰も経験したことのない領域を誰も経験したことのない方法で進んでいく。それを支え続けているのがドジャースという組織の総力です。歴史の目撃者でいられることをファンとして誇りに思いますね。最後までご視聴いただきありがとうございました。高評価、チャンネル登録をよろしくお願いいたします。それではまた次の動画でお会いしましょう。